Today's major news from Korea. A candidate for the Prosecutor General, who had been vacant for about 100 days, was also announced. The candidate for the Prosecutor General's office is a special prosecutor close to the President. Since Minister of Justice Han Dong-hoon and the Judicial Research and Training Institute are classmates, there are also concerns about whether it is possible for the prosecution to have a different voice from the Ministry of Justice. The presidential office is evaluating Lee Won-seok's candidate for Prosecutor General as an investigative and planning officer. Prosecutor General Lee Won-seok is known to have a close relationship with President Yoon Suk-yeol. In 2017, when former President Park's Special Prosecutors Team was formed, they directly investigated former President Park Geun-hye. Prosecutor General Lee Won-seok, who served as the head of the Planning and Coordination Department of the Supreme Prosecutor's Office, was in charge of the prosecution's major planning tasks during his time as Prosecutor General Yoon Suk-yeol. The chief of the Supreme Prosecutor's Office, Ki-cho, is considered to be the closest aide to the Prosecutor General. It is known that he and Minister of Justice Han Dong-hoon were close friends of the Judicial Research and Training Institute since they were in the training center. There are also voices of concern that the neutrality of the prosecution may be infringed as the President's aide assumes the roles of both the Justice Minister and the Prosecutor General. On the other hand, there is an evaluation that the prosecution's leadership may be shaken as the number of the Prosecutor General is lowered. It is also because high-ranking prosecutors with higher ranks than candidates for the Korean Prosecutor General may consider resigning. It is a long-standing practice for South Korean prosecutors to have previously graduated senior training institute jockeys retire from office if their superiors are below their training institute graduation year. Meanwhile, inside the prosecutor's office, there is a reaction that Prosecutor Lee Won-seok is an expected person because of his outstanding abilities. Prosecutor General Lee Won-seok has served as acting president for the past 3 months and has been evaluated as a competent prosecutor who leads the organization without unreasonableness. The following is the content related to Lee Junseok, the power of the people, former party leader's sexual assault scandal. Kim Song-jin, the CEO of Hite, who is suspected of providing entertainment such as sexual favors to former People's Power CEO Lee Junseok, claimed that he had entertained former CEO Lee in the amount of millions of won in 2014 for the pardon of then SK Group Chairman Chae Tae-won. Kim's legal representative, lawyer Kong Shin-up, said that he met with reporters in front of the Seoul Detention Center during the police's 6th interview on the 18th and hosted about 2 million won in August 2014. Previously, CEO Kim is being investigated by the police on suspicion of paying sexual favors and various types of entertainment to former CEO Lee twice in 2013, and he is currently in custody in a separate case. Lawyer Kong stated that CEO Kim spent 1.95 million won for meals when he met 6 people including former CEO Lee on November 15, 2014 during a police investigation, and drank 300,000 won worth of wine with former CEO Lee at the subsequent drinking party. Said he did. CEO Kim met with former CEO Lee twice in November and December of the same year and stated that he had spent about 4.2 million won on meals and gifts. Lawyer Kong argued that the reason why CEO Kim treated him respectfully that day was to move Junseok Lee to have Chairman Tae-won Choi pardoned. At the same time, he thought that it was difficult because former party leader Lee Junseok did not give a definite answer, but at the end of that year, he received a call from former party leader Lee Junseok and said that we should go ahead with what we said before, and on January 6 of the following year, we had in-depth discussions about the promotion of amnesty. SK Chairman Chae Tae-won was sentenced to 4 years in prison on charges of embezzlement and was released from prison on Liberation Day in August 2015, 2 years and 7 months in prison. Lawyer Kong continued, saying that Kim introduced a female singer to former party leader Lee Junseok on June 7, 2014 at the request of former party leader Lee Junseok. Lawyer Kong said that he had filed a lawsuit for prohibition of denial of entertainment against Lee, and said that if former party leader Lee Junseok continues to deny the facts, he will take all civil measures, including compensation for damages and alimony claims. In an interview with the Dong-a-ilbo on the 17th, Foreign Minister Park Jin said in an interview with the Dong-a-ilbo on the 17th that if North Korea carries out a major provocation, such as its 7th nuclear test, it will first designate individuals and companies involved in the production and development of weapons of mass destruction as subjects of additional independent sanctions. He will also consider sanctions in the areas of cyber, maritime, and export controls. The U.S. State Department also said on the 17th that sanctions will remain in place unless North Korea changes its fundamental approach and behavior. However, Minister Park said that he saw North Korea's restraint from its 7th nuclear test as a starting point for sincerity in denuclearization and that if North Korea refrains from provocations for a certain period of time, he would consult with relevant countries, including the United States, to exempt the existing sanctions against North Korea. The plan is to actively discuss exemption from sanctions against North Korea for the Korean Peninsula Resource Food Exchange Program. Minister Park argued that China could not deploy additional THAAD, not to participate in the U.S. missile defense system, as well as not being able to form a trilateral military alliance with the US, South Korea, and Japan, as well as limiting the operation of the deployed THAAD. He said that it is okay to think that China's general position is like that. At the Korea-China Foreign Ministers meeting on the 9th, he also said that China expressed the position of the former Moon Jae-in administration regarding the THAAD-3, etc. In the event of a major provocation such as a nuclear test, the South Korean government will designate individuals and companies involved in the production and development of weapons of mass destruction as targets of additional independent sanctions. Furthermore, sanctions can be considered in cyber, maritime, and export control fields. In addition, including the adoption of a new Security Council sanctions resolution on North Korea, we will cooperate with relevant countries such as the United States, Japan, and the international community to achieve a strong and united response. With the recent North Korean nuclear and missile threats and the growing instability in Northeast Asia, the importance of ROK-U.S-Japan cooperation in the field of security is growing. Therefore, there is a need for practical and effective security cooperation between the three countries. The position of the JSOMIA issue is that it is necessary to seek a comprehensive solution along with other pending issues between Korea and Japan. This is news related to semi-subterranean housing related to the death of a citizen living in a semi-underground due to a major flood that has come for the first time in 80 years. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport said that it was in full support of the Seoul Metropolitan Government's announcement that it would not permit all semi-subterranean houses. The Seoul Metropolitan Government announced that it would negotiate with the government to revise the relevant law, as local governments already have the authority not to permit the construction of semi-subterranean houses on their own. Inside the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport, there are also suspicions that the Seoul Metropolitan Government was talking about changing the law to shift the blame to the central government. An official from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport said that it has begun reviewing the building law revision on the semi-underground building permit. The Seoul Metropolitan Government announced that it would consult with the government to completely disallow the semi-basement for residential purposes. The current building law stipulates that building on the basement floor in the habitually flooded area may not be allowed to be built after deliberation by the local government's building committee. This regulation was proposed by the Seoul Metropolitan Government to the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport in 2012. The Seoul Metropolitan Government is going one step further and is proposing to amend the law to prevent the construction of semi-subterranean houses at all. The Ministry of Home Affairs thinks differently. An official from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport said that it is a matter of examining how well the Seoul Metropolitan Government exercised its veto, the veto guaranteed by the law, under the current law, separate from the revision of the building law. According to the building law, the city level can refuse to build semi-underground houses in areas prone to flooding or flooding with only the current regulations. However, since 2012, when the building code was revised, 40,000 more semi-basement houses were built in Seoul. The area where the recent disaster occurred is also designated as an area vulnerable to flooding. There is also the view that even if the law is changed, the effect may not be great in reality, and it may be merely a show-type legislation. An official from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport said that most of the new houses being built these days have a parking lot on the first floor and a pilotis structure where residential spaces are built on top of it, so the Seoul city's new policy of completely disallowing the semi-basement is not effective. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport is arguing that it is more effective for Seoul to focus on the expansion of public rental housing or support for relocation costs for the housing vulnerable class currently living in semi-basement housing due to the burden of housing costs, rather than sticking to the prohibition of new construction in the semi-basement. This is news about the revision of Article 80 of the Constitution of the Bulletproof Corporation to protect the Democratic Party's corrupt lawmakers. On the 17th, the Democratic Party's Emergency Response Committee decided not to amend Article 80 of the party constitution, which caused controversy over bulletproof use of Lee Jae-myung, who is currently on the line of investigation by the prosecution and the police on many charges of corruption. It is to maintain the current party constitution, which suspends the duties of officers charged with corruption. However, some are pointed out that it is a trick bulletproof, in which the pro-Lee Jae-myung Jai took the profit by changing the subject of political retaliation to the party committee rather than an external organization. A spokesperson for the Democratic Party said immediately after the meeting that the committee decided to keep Article 80 of the party constitution. The previous day, the National Party Preparatory Committee voted on an amendment to change the time of suspension from the current criminal prosecution to the time of a conviction of imprisonment without prison labor or hire at the first trial, which is a lower court, and it was returned to its original state within one day. However, the Emergency Response Committee opted for a compromise by amending Article 80, the relief procedure, by the number of days. Currently, it is stipulated that the disciplinary action can be cancelled or suspended if it is recognized that there are unreasonable reasons such as political oppression through the resolution of the Ethics Tribunal, an independent organization. Compared to the ethics judges, who are made up of more than half of them outside the party committee is inevitably sensitive to the atmosphere within the party. The revised party constitution will be finalized through the resolution of the Party Affairs Committee. Here are some economic news. While Samsung Electronics has decided to build a semiconductor R&D center at the Jae-myung campus in Yongin, the participation of Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong at the groundbreaking ceremony to be held on the 19th is being considered. With the return of Samsung Electronics Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong, individual investors are expecting the stock price to fluctuate. According to industry sources on the 19th, Vice Chairman Lee is expected to attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the R&D complex held on the same day as the first official event after the Liberation Day special lottery. It is the first time Samsung Electronics is building an R&D center in Korea in 8 years since the establishment of device solution research at its Hwaseong plant in Gyeonggi province in 2014. If Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong attends the event, he is expected to deliver a message related to the return to management, emphasizing a management philosophy that emphasizes talent and technology and securing a super gap in a situation of great uncertainty in the semiconductor industry. He is also highly likely to visit the production line at the semiconductor plant and communicate with the executives and employees. Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong's attendance at the groundbreaking ceremony for the R&D complex is interpreted as a move to reinforce the will to focus on technology and re-emphasize the securing of super gap technology. Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong returned from a business trip to Europe on June 18 and emphasized the importance of securing technology, saying that the first is technology, the second is technology, and the third is technology. Wang Joo-ho, a professor of nuclear engineering at Kyunghee University, was appointed as the first president of Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, the first president of the Junseok government, who declared that it would build a nuclear power generation powerhouse. According to the government and the nuclear industry on the 18th, the government sent an official letter requesting that the appointment process be started after selecting Professor Wang as the candidate for President Dansu at the Public Institutions Steering Committee on the same day. Accordingly, KHNP will propose the appointment of a new president at the Extraordinary General Meeting of Shareholders on the 19th. After that, the president, who has the authority to appoint, will approve it after being recommended by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy. Professor Wang Joo-ho, from the Department of Nuclear Engineering at Seoul National University, is the best-spent nuclear fuel expert in Korea who has served as the president of the Korea Atomic Energy Control Institute, the president of the Korea Atomic Energy Association, and the chairman of the KHNP Nuclear Safety Advisory Committee. Professor Wang has been arguing for the necessity of nuclear power by leading a statement against nuclear denuclearization by 230 energy professors from 29 universities across the country under the Moon Jae-in administration, which advocated for nuclear-free nuclear power. He came up with measures for the government to solve the problem of noise between floors in apartment buildings. First of all, it was decided to support interest expenses when installing noise reduction mats, up to a maximum of 3 million won. The Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport held a meeting related to noise between floors at a rental house in Seoul and announced a plan to improve noise between floors in an apartment building. Interest-free support is provided for the low-income class, and interest on up to 3 million won for the mat installation fee is provided at a low interest rate of 1% for families with children in the middle class. In a recent survey conducted by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, 49% said that if the government subsidizes interest when installing an interfloor noise prevention mat, 49% said they would use it. He explained that he plans to prepare financial products to provide appropriate support. It is known that the noise reduction mat will cost about 3 million won if it is installed in the hallway, living room, and room based on an exclusive area of 84 square meters. In addition, the government decided to make it mandatory for apartment complexes with more than 500 households to install an interfloor noise management committee. Currently, when a dispute arises between neighbors due to noise between floors, the head of the housing management team intervenes and recommends stopping the noise, but it is practically useless. Accordingly, it was decided to form a self-governing resident organization with the participation of residents, city representatives, and the head of the management office to voluntarily resolve disputes in the event of a dispute. In addition, in order to block the generation of interfloor noise from the construction stage, regulations on construction companies are strengthened and incentives are expanded. It was decided to discount the sale guarantee fee by up to 30% for companies with excellent post-check results, and to allow additional construction cost pre-sale price if the floor thickness is additionally secured. After the completion of the apartment building, business owners of apartment complexes must conduct a performance test to check the floor impact sound blocking performance and submit it to the inspection agency before receiving approval for use. If the floor impact sound blocking performance does not meet the standard, the inspection agency may recommend supplementary construction or compensation for damages to the business operator. In addition, it was decided to relax the building standards so that construction companies can construct in a way that transmits less noise. Currently, most of the apartment houses are built with a wall-type structure that transmits noise and vibration to the lower floors. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, DSME, signed a submarine export contract with Indonesia, but it has not been received for over 3 years. In the midst of this, tens of billions of won were wasted by purchasing major parts in advance. I don't know how this happened, but if Indonesia just changed its mind, the government doesn't seem to be lagging behind. 2 years later, Daewoo Shipbuilding signed a contract with the Indonesian government to build a second submarine worth 1.3 trillion won. However, it is confirmed that even after 3 years have passed, the contract has not been received. Nevertheless, Daewoo Shipbuilding signed a contract to purchase important parts with Siemens of Germany and paid a down payment of 7.8 billion won. They ordered parts from the Indonesian government without receiving a down payment. In the end, Daewoo Shipbuilding treated nearly 70 billion won as an accidental loss allowance at the end of last year. It is being pointed out that the company is in danger of losing 70 billion won as an unreasonable starter. Daewoo Shipbuilding explained that the possibility of a contract with the Indonesian government at the time was high and that an early order was inevitable to meet the delivery schedule. Korea Development Bank, the major shareholder, said that it had no special position and said that the contract was still in progress. At that time, the person in charge who approved the contract for the submarine business is now President Park Doo-sun, and even theories of President Park's responsibility are emerging. According to Hite Jinro and the police, more than 1,000 members of the left-leaning group, the Korean Federation of Trade Unions, have illegally occupied 3 lanes in front of the Hite Jinro headquarters in Seoul and Yeongdong-do from the afternoon of the same day, and it is known that the traffic damage to citizens is severe. In addition, they are not well received by the citizens as they are displeased with citizens by occupying India and smoking on the street. In fact, the union members of the Left Freight Solidarity, an interest group for self-employed business owners with individual business registration certificates, started a strike in early June, demanding an increase in freight rates. They illegally parked trucks and other vehicles in front of the company's Sojua production bases in Ikon and Cheongju, occupied the road, and started a protest. The police organization that is opposed to the current government does not crack down on their illegal demonstrations at all, but rather protects them. Being criticized for not doing so. According to a weekly apartment price trend survey by the Korea Real Estate Agency on the 18th, apartment prices in Seoul fell by 0.09% as of this week, a larger drop than last week. Naeungu, Dobonggu, Yunpyeong Songbukgu, and Sidamungu had the largest drop. In particular, as Sokogu turned downward for the first time in 6 months since the third week of February, apartment prices in all 25 districts of Seoul fell. According to the real estate agency, it is the first time in 3 years and 6 months since the first week of February 2019 that apartment prices have fallen across Seoul on a weekly basis. From the 1st of next month, you can use 2 numbers on one smartphone. The mobile communication industry is paying attention to how the market will change in line with the commercialization of eSIM. According to LGU+, the eSIM works the same as the USIM. It is the same in that it is a subscriber identification module that can store subscriber information, call logs, contact information, and text messages. While the SIM is a method of putting it in and out of the smartphone, the eSIM is built into the phone itself. When you change your phone, you have to physically replace the SIM. However, eSIMs only need to download the profile on their new smartphone. eSIMs do not have to repurchase the chip every time they change carriers. You only need to pay 2,751 to download the profile. This is a third of the cost of purchasing a SIM card of 7,701. A SIM contains one profile with user information. Up to 2 eSIMs are included. Since there is a maximum of 2 terminal identification numbers assigned to one mobile phone terminal, 2 numbers can be used using a SIM and an eSIM. The mobile communication industry observes that the introduction of eSIM opens the era of one phone 2 number. It can be used separately for business and personal use. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has decided to provide a monthly allowance of 300,000 won to grandparents taking care of their grandchildren under 36 months of age. If you take on 2 people, you will receive 450,000 won, and if you take care of 3 people, you will receive 600,000 won. The mayor of Seoul held a press briefing at the City Hall briefing room on the 18th and announced the Mom and Dad Happiness Project, which contains such content. It is the first comprehensive plan in Seoul that focuses on the happiness of caregivers, including parents of children under the age of 9. The budget alone will amount to 14.7 trillion won over 5 years until 2026. If a parent leaves a child with a relative within the 4th degree, a monthly allowance of 300,000 won is provided for each child. Starting with 16,000 next year, 49,000 people will receive support by 2026. It can be paid in cash for up to 1 year, but only if you are caring for a child for more than 40 hours a month. Support is provided only if the child's household has 6.29 million won based on a 3-person household with less than 150% of the standard median income. In this case, the standard is based on the health insurance premium CO payment calculated by considering not only the monthly salary but also the assets. This raises concerns that grandparents may register as caring for their grandparents without actually taking care of the child and receive an allowance. An official from Seoul said that in order to prevent illegal supply and demand, they plan to receive an activity plan and confirmation letter in advance and complete related training, and are discussing ways to monitor the site during the period of care in cooperation with local autonomous districts. It is also being considered to refund the full amount and deprive the recipient of the right to receive if illegal receipts are found. If you use a private caregiver instead of a relative, a voucher that can be used at a private service organization in cooperation with the city is paid at the same amount. Korea Railroad Corporation Korail announced on the 18th that as a result of the Junseok ticket reservations held since the 16th, 799,000 of the 1.65 million seats were sold. The overall reservation rate is 48.4%. The day with the most visitors during the Junseok holiday was the 9th of next month, and the reservation rate for the downbound flight was the highest at 83.4%. Korail, however, must pay for tickets purchased this time by midnight on the 21st. Tickets not paid for within the period are automatically cancelled and the train ticket is assigned to the applicant waiting for reservation. In particular, seniors and people with disabilities who reserved a ticket by phone on the 16th must visit the station window, pay the fare on the spot, and receive the physical ticket by the 21st. Remaining seats can be purchased as usual from 3 p.m. on the 18th at the mobile app Korail Talk, the Korail website, or at railway stations and vending machines nationwide. The Netflix original Korean drama Model Family, which was released on the 12th, starts by showing how not exemplary the main character's family is. Dong-ha, a part-time university lecturer, pays for his young son's heart surgery as a bribe to become a professor, but in the end he fails to become a professor and loses all his money. A family that has been carrying all kinds of debt is driven to the brink of bankruptcy. Her wife Yeon-ju is tired of her husband not taking good care of her family and demands her divorce. Middle school daughter falls down a bad path. On the surface, it looks like a model family created by a husband and a straightforward wife, but in reality, it was a precarious family on the verge of crumbling. Director Kim Jin-woo, who directed The Model Family, said in a recent video interview that he wanted to show the problems of these families through a realistic fable, saying that if the actual appearance of the family, which is evaluated as a model family from the outside, was not, there would have been a problem of lack of communication between the families. Said. The 10-part drama drives Dong-ha into the worst situation from the beginning of the first part. Another car collides behind Dong-ha's car, who was struggling in despair in a car on a quiet road. The car in question contains 2 bodies and a large amount of money. Dong-ha takes all the money in the desperate need to protect his family. This money drives Dong-ha and his family into a deeper abyss. The money in question was the black money of the drug organization. Dong-ha and his family are strangled by the pursuit of Gwang Cheol, the second in command of the drug gang. Director Kim drives the main characters to extreme situations, but the music uses country-style, lyrical music. It is a point that differentiates it from existing Korean crime thrillers that heightened anxiety through music. Director Kim said he didn't want the music to take precedence over the actors' performances, and he didn't want the viewers to feel certain emotions. The calm music that seems to contemplate the situation from a step away makes viewers more immersed in the characters and their psychology. Although criminal gangs play a major role in the series, it is also noteworthy that they are portrayed poorly. Director Kim said, "If you focus on the appearance of gangs, you will only see gangs and not people." He said, "I wanted to focus on people's stories." Actor Young-woo is the first contributor to the tension up to episode 10. He perfectly digests Dong-ha on the cliff by showing his facial muscles trembling with extreme anxiety and stress. In a recent video interview, he said that he put all his heart into acting so that viewers could feel that the story was real. The US CNN broadcast evaluated that Korea's defense industry is already at the level of the major leagues. Reporting on President Yoon Suk-yeol's remarks at a press conference on the 100th day of his inauguration that he would make Korea the world's 4th largest exporter of defense industry after the United States, Russia, and France. On the 17th, CNN introduced Korea's recent arms orders as the basis for evaluating the Korean defense industry as a major league. Examples include the export of 48 improved Korean Fa-50 light attack aircraft, 980 K2 tanks and 648 K9 self-propelled guns to Poland, and an export contract worth 1 trillion won, including 30 K9s, to Australia. CNN reported that South Korea's arms exports amounted to $566 million at the end of last year, ranking 10th in the world, and arms contracts with Poland and Australia pushed the so-called Korean defense industry into the defense major leagues. CNN cited the price/performance competitiveness of South Korean weapons as the secret to such achievements. South Korea's military equipment is being evaluated as being cheaper and more powerful than American-made, and thanks to these characteristics, the order performance is increasing. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.